Hi, I'm Frankie.
And I'm Cheyenne.
And we are
Conbini Cult.
Welcome to episode 13.
Woo! Lucky number 13.
What are we talking about today?
We're talking about some frequently asked questions about what it takes to move and live in Japan. Yeah.
Do you have what it takes?
Yeah, that came out so wrong. No, we're answering your frequently asked questions about moving and living in Japan.
Yeah. For me, on my Instagram, I get a lot of people asking me like just general questions about moving and what it's like to live here. So I thought it might be an interesting topic for us to cover on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I have my own experience, but it's good to get someone else's perspective on it too.
Yeah. And no one asks me any questions, so I'm just here to have a good time and talk. Thank you. Yes, I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all don't have for me. So yeah. Should we get into it?
So I just wanted to say, if we don't cover things that you're curious about on this episode, you can leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube, or you can email us at conbinicultpod@gmail.com.
One more time. conbinicultpod@gmail.com.
Don't you forget it.
Don't do it. Okay.
But yeah, you can ask us anything on there, or if you want to share stories, if you want us to share your
What?
I'm sorry.
Flipping and reverse.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
Without you, my friend. Okay.
Okay. Anyway, yeah. Send us an email if you have any other questions, is what we were trying to say.
Yes.
Okay.
So for the word of the day, just something to do with moving. So I have
hikkoshi.
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 Yeah,
again,
there's like two spellings of it.
Yeah.
Hikkoshi. Hikkosu. Hikkoshi shimasu.
Yeah, which means to move. Yeah. So that's our topic of the day. So we figure that's an appropriate word of the day. Before we get into everything, there's something we would like to mention. Frankie.
Yes. So I'm going to just read out this disclaimer that I typed. So, disclaimer.
Okay.
This is general information. We are not immigration lawyers or specialists. Everything is based on our own experiences, and we are both American. What happened in our case may not be true for someone else. It's valuable to hear about many people's experiences, so that's why we're sharing. We're not the authority on any of these topics. We would love to hear about your experience about moving here too, because everyone's is different and valuable. So, okay.
The end. Okay, great. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you so much.
Yes, okay.
Sorry about the squeaking of the couch.
No.
It's really hard not to
Move.
squeak it when I touch my laptop.
Sorry.
But yeah, a lot of people ask the general question, how do I move to Japan?
Yeah, and you follow that up with, what's your purpose?
Yeah. I think if you want to move to Japan, you kind of have to think about, well, what do you want to do here? Do you want to work in Japan? Do you want to study?
Yeah.
What else could you do that could get you a visa besides work and study?
That was just going to be my main question. I mean, unless...
Just be a tourist.
Tourist, you can come. Like, if you mean like how... Oh, well, the question was, how do I move to Japan?
Well, yeah, but you could... I mean, depending what country you're from, like you might have 90 days visa free, so I guess you could move for a few months.
Yeah, so I guess decide what you want to do here first before you come is the safest bet. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the first question.
Step. Yeah, that's the first step, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want to study, like, do you want to do your 4-year bachelor's degree here? Do you want to do a master's program here, PhD program, go to language school? There are a lot of ways that you could study here.
Yeah, I first, I guess, lived in Japan when I was studying abroad. So I was still in university in Hawaii.
Well.
And yeah, I got to live here for a year. And I think that was so great because it got me, you know, it gave me a chance to like really see if I liked it or not. I think a year is a good time to give yourself to see if you like want to commit to living somewhere for long term. So yeah, that was how I did it. And I decided I wanted to come back. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So wherever you decide to go to school or work, they will probably help you with the visa stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a red flag if they don't.
They don't. Yeah. Especially if they're asking you to come to Japan. Like, they should be helping you with that visa stuff. Speaking of that, what is that called? That COE?
The first thing you need is also, we did say, like, working and studying, but also, like, if you're married to a Japanese person, like, maybe you are not living in the same country at the moment, and then one of you wants to move to Japan on a spouse visa. So that's also an option. And I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of other situations where people end up moving here. I just can't think of any off the top of my head right now.
Like the spouse visa, there's also a dependent of a spouse visa or something. So like, let's say your spouse, you know, you're both from a country that's not Japan. Your spouse came to Japan for work, and then you are on a dependent visa from them. So that could be a way you come to.
That too.
Yeah.
So yeah, when the time comes to start your visa application process, the first thing you're going to need to get is a certificate of eligibility. And I got to be honest, it's been 7 years. I don't remember.
I mean, it's basically just visa paperwork that your future employer fills out for you. And then they should fill all of that out on your behalf and submit that to the immigration office. And then that's how you get your residence card in Japan, I believe. But same, it's also been 7 years for me. So,
but you need the COE before you can even apply for the visa.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah. And then once you already have a visa, like you can change your visa status to other types of things, or you could apply for an extension of the visa that you have. So usually, like unless you move out of Japan for a while, you only need to do the COE once.
Yeah, I've never had to do it again. I think I did it once when I first came here for the first job I ever did here in Japan, and I've changed jobs twice since then. And I think it's just for overseas applicants, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you also need that as a student as well. So I think it applies to like any kind of visa. Did you say that already? Sorry. Yeah.
I don't think I said it specifically, but
yeah,
there you go. And I also do think it's worth consulting with an immigration lawyer. In certain cases, like having the visa lawyer do everything for you might be useful as well. So I think it is worth looking into it, especially if you have some very specific questions. Like in my inbox on Instagram, I often get very specific visa questions, and like I have no idea. I'm not a lawyer. Someone had asked me before, like, I'm in Japan working right now, and I put that I was single, but like I'm married back in my home country, and now I want to bring my spouse over here, but like I said that I was single, so what do I do? And I'm like,
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like, you should talk to a lawyer. I don't know.
I would say, talk to a lawyer. Or I think a lot of immigration offices also just have a little counseling booth, like a counseling section. So even if you go to the immigration office and like don't plan to turn in any paperwork, there's always someone at a desk there. And they're usually there to help foreigners specifically. I mean, obviously it's immigration, but like you can go there. And then even if you maybe... I got this advice from a friend where, like, let's say you don't want to not expose yourself, but like you can kind of just be like, I have a friend who did this, who marked that they were single, but now they want to bring over their spouse. What should they do? Or like, what can someone do in this situation? And then they're just there to give you advice about how to handle that. So don't be afraid to seek counseling, I would say.
And also they can look at your paperwork before you submit it too, just to make sure that you have everything. So if you have time, you can go to the counseling desk at the immigration office.
Okay, good.
Cool. Also, so there was a digital nomad visa. So before I get into this, there are just so many different visa types. You can look on the immigration website of all the different types that they have. Like even within the realm of working visas, there are so many specific types of working visas. There's student visa, spouse visa, dependent visa, long-term resident, artist,
international services, engineering,
there's ones you can get for like religion as well.
Oh, I didn't know that. There's also one called like special activities or designated activities, which I don't know what that really means. A lot of them are very broad, but okay.
So it's worth consulting with someone to figure out what type of visa you could apply for. But there was a new type of visa that was introduced earlier this year, I think officially from April 1st. But it's called the digital nomad visa, which is basically like a 6-month visa that you can get if you are a digital nomad. And like then you want to live in Japan. It could be.
Okay. For
6 months. But you need to make like 10 million yen per year, which is in today's conversion like $65,000 a year. So you need to prove that. And then Yeah, it just seems like, because you can get it for 6 months, but you can't extend it.
Oh,
So then you have
interesting.
to, you could
It's
apply for
literally
it. Yeah,
a
you could apply
nomad.
for it again in the
Yeah,
future, but
yeah.
you need to leave the country for 6 months.
Oh,
And then you can reapply for it.
Interesting. Okay, yeah.
So I don't think it's really ideal for somebody who wants to be here long term.
Yeah.
Because also with a 6-month visa like this, you're not going to be able to open a bank account. You're not going to be able to make a contract, like a year or two, 1 year or 2 year contract to get an apartment. So it just, to me, it kind of sounds like a glorified tourist visa.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Because, I mean, 6 months, it is still a long time, but a tourist visa is what, 3 months technically? 90 days. So depending what country you're from.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But it could be really good for somebody who only wants to stay for half a year and just kind of try it out.
Yeah. I mean, this visa type is also so new too. So, like, I personally don't know anything about it. So,
and I don't know anybody who's on it.
Yeah. Either. I don't think I've ever met anyone on it either. So, yeah. Good luck with that if you decide to get into that.
Yeah. But look into it if you're interested. So another common question is, if I'm moving to Japan, do I need to speak Japanese, or like how fluent do I need to be to live there? Here.
Yeah. And the answer is, it depends. Yeah.
It depends what you want to do.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's definitely possible to go through your daily life without knowing any Japanese at all. I mean, maybe some like basic words and phrases.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, you could live here without learning any Japanese, but what kind of life is that?
I think there's also a difference between do I need to speak Japanese to move to Japan, and do I need to speak Japanese? Can I speak English? Do I need to speak Japanese to live in Japan? So the first one, to move to Japan, I don't think you need to speak Japanese just to move here, especially if your job has like nothing to do with the Japanese language at all.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can move to Japan without having any knowledge of Japanese. Whether you work as an English teacher or in IT or at whatever kind of firm. But of course, if you plan to live in Japan long term, you don't need to speak it, but it is very helpful. I think it will make your life a lot easier if you spoke Japanese, just to like meet new people and things like that. Yeah.
Exactly. If you want to stay here for a long time, like, there will be limitations if you don't try to learn the language. So like, you job hunting, like, you're going to be stuck in similar industries. Like, you'll be stuck teaching English, or I don't know, like a few of the jobs that are English only. Yeah. And then it might be hard to connect with the locals, because you would have to specifically find people who speak English or whatever language.
Yeah, but I think if you know that your time in Japan has an expiration date, even if you plan to like live here, but you've decided only for 1 year or 6 months or 2 years or whatever, and you're fine with just, using your tools like Google Translate or like whatever, and because you're going to go home anyway, then yeah, that's fine too. Like, I don't think you really need, depending where you live in Japan, but I don't think you won't survive if you like can't speak Japanese for a limited amount of time, I would say.
Yeah. So essentially, yes, you don't need to really speak any Japanese to move here. It really just depends what kind of life you want to make for yourself.
Yeah. It's a very open-ended answer, I would say.
Yeah.
I'm going to squeeze the sofa, squeak it. Okay. All right, next one.
Okay.
Yeah. The next question is how to find jobs in Japan, meaning like what websites or what resources did you use? Did you have any common ones that you used?
So we kind of made a list of, sorry, my nose is itchy.
Oh, okay. Scratching break.
We made a list of like commonly used job sites here. So there's Gaijinpot, Daijob, Guidable is one. They have a newsletter. Like, I still get it sometimes. And they have some English teaching jobs, but there's also a lot of interesting things there, like healthcare jobs or like construction or like factory work as well.
Nice.
So kind of interesting. Guidable. And then what are the other ones?
The other ones are LinkedIn, Indeed, and Baitoru. So I would like to kind of categorize these websites depending on like what job you are looking for.
Okay.
So I think the most familiar one is Gaijinpot.
Yeah.
Gaijin Pot has, I would say, a lot of English teaching jobs, or like the majority on there. But
True.
they also, depending on like openings from other companies as well, they also have like IT positions on there. Like they have a wide range, but like it's obviously Gaijin Pot. It's like for foreigners specifically looking for foreigner friendly jobs in Japan, I would say, like for companies who are seeking foreigners as well. Dai job, in my experience, I noticed it's kind of almost on the same vibe of Gaijin Pot, but like mostly English teaching jobs. Am I wrong?
I haven't been on it recently, but when I checked a few years ago, it was a lot of like Japanese only.
Oh, was it the opposite then? Yeah. Okay.
So there were like, a lot of other industries on there, like banking.
Oh, interesting.
Marketing kind of stuff.
Okay.
But maybe there are English teaching jobs.
Maybe.
On there,
I haven't used that one like so much actually. You want to talk us through Guidable? I don't know anything about them.
Well, I did just talk about that a little bit, but also LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, I would say, is for
not super popular. But
not super popular.
You could find a job on there.
I've been scouted for recruiting companies, like from recruiters to apply to recruiting companies. So I would say, if I was getting messages in English from employers, it was for mostly like recruiting companies. And then I got a lot of offers from people in Japanese, and it was like always for translation or some kind of like Japanese company in there too. So they had a good like half based on my experience, but also that's not the most common one, I would say. I kind of use LinkedIn more to, make those connections, and then you like, I mean, that's what LinkedIn is for. Yeah. Make, connections to find jobs on your own. Indeed is mostly for Japanese speakers. I would say I don't believe there could be now an English version of Indeed, but like I've only used Indeed to look for all kinds of jobs in Japan outside of English teaching and English speaking jobs and stuff. Yeah.
I have a friend who got a programming job that she applied for on Indeed.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And Baitoru, this one is just like specifically for looking for a baito or a part-time job in Japan. So yeah, I think they have an app for it too. So it's really easy if you're just looking for something part-time and your visa allows it, then use Baitoru. That was a good app for sure.
Yeah, so there's a lot of options. We'll link those in the description and the show notes.
There's a really, maybe it's a dumb question. Like, Tofugu, is that only a language learning website, or is that?
I've heard of it, but
is that like
I don't
a Gaijin
remember
Pot-esque? Like, I don't remember either. That like just came to mind now, like Tofugu. But that I could be super wrong. I don't know if they just do like culture and articles. Squeak, I'll scroll for you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Another commonly asked question is how to find apartments. So there's a few resources.
You want to talk about that first one? I don't know what that is.
So Able is like a real estate company, a fudosan, but they have a lot of English-friendly properties. So when I was living in Tokyo, I went to Able, and they showed me a few places. That's how I found my Koenji apartment.
Oh, okay,
in
nice.
Tokyo. But they're all over the country.
Nice. Okay. The next recommendation we have is Sumo. So this is an app that's also used. It's a Japanese app, like mostly used by Japanese people. So you use this website or this app for any kind of housing, like apartment, mansion, share house and things like that. I don't believe there is a English feature on there, so you have to be.
I don't think there's any English.
Yeah, confident in navigating it in Japanese if that's how you want to look for your home. I think there's also, because you know how you can filter out like not your expectations. What am I saying? Like your desired
features,
like your budget, pets okay, things like that. I believe there's a box that says like foreigner friendly. I could be wrong. I could be super wrong.
Think so I remember there was a box for LGBTQ friendly.
Very nice. Okay, yeah. But I would double check that if you want other options besides like Able and like just foreign housing. Although I will say, because it is a website used like just mostly by Japanese people, as a foreigner, there might be a chance where you're gonna want to look at a place and then you're gonna get rejected because you're not Japanese. Has happened to me a couple of times. Has happened to a lot of people. So yeah, just be wary of that.
Yeah, when I was apartment hunting in Osaka, I did use Sumo, and the places that I went to, so like they'll list a lot of apartments on there, but the real estate agencies are going to be different for each one. So you kind of just click the box to send an email like, I would like to view this place. And then the real estate company will contact you. So maybe I got lucky, but the places that I was seeing in Osaka, we did use Japanese only, but like it was not really a question of like, oh, you're a foreigner. No, they kind of just treated me normally.
Oh, that's nice.
But yeah, it was all in Japanese. So if you're not confident in your Japanese ability, you might find it like a bit awkward to use Sumo.
Yeah, in my case, one of the times I got rejected, we were like on the phone speaking in Japanese and it was all good. Right. And then they were like, okay, yeah, it looks great. And then they're like, wait, what is your name? And I was like, it's and then I said my name, which is not a Japanese name. And they were like, oh, what's your nationality? And I was like, USA. And they're like, ooh, no, sorry. So yeah, that has happened before. Just be careful. And the last site we have on here on how to find apartments is Gaijinpot Housing. So Gaijinpot really has all kinds of resources. Yeah, everything for foreigners who are living in Japan. So yeah, check those out.
Yeah, and I would assume the ones that are on their website are probably foreigner friendly.
Yeah, like that one place comes up a lot, like Oak House. I think they're like a realtor that is specifically like foreigner friendly because a lot of their contracts, you can do them like month by month or maybe like 3 months at a time or 6 months at a time. And they're always usually furnished as well.
Oh, that's really useful.
Yeah. So it is very like foreign specific because they know it's like geared towards people who probably don't plan to stay in Japan super long term. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I also keep seeing people post on Instagram about Weave Place.
Weave Place? What is that?
It's like a fully furnished, I think, month-to-month thing. So it might be good for people who just want to stay for a few months. Digital
nomads, yeah. Oh, is that like a share house?
No. Oh. I mean, maybe they do have options for share houses, but it looked like, just like single apartments that are fully furnished.
Yeah. We'll get into like money talk in just a second, but that is also an option to look into. Fully furnished with short-term like leases or contracts versus like your standard Japanese, like maybe year or 2-year contract that are unfurnished. So depending on, again, your job, how long you want to stay and your budget, please keep those two things in mind.
Yeah. And when the place is unfurnished, it's literally like
barren. It's unfurnished. Like you have to buy your stove kind of unfurnished.
Yeah. Sometimes there is no stove. Like you're probably going to have to buy an AC unit as well.
Your fridge. Yeah. What else did I have to buy?
Everything.
Yeah, everything. Like a
grill.
Machine. Oh, yeah. There's no like washing machines. There are some places where if you don't want to go for those fully furnished places, but don't want to commit to like buying new appliances too. A lot of websites have like kind of like you can lease a washing machine or you can lease a fridge for like a year or 2 years. Yeah, I almost did that. Yeah. Or there's a lot of great secondhand shops too. The thing with that, like moving culture, especially in Japanese employees and companies, is so big here. Like a lot of people move and have to buy or sell appliances. So a lot of secondhand stores have like appliances for pretty cheap too, if you don't want to lease them.
Yeah, and in very good condition usually.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Moving on.
But also just one more thing. Of course, the fully furnished places are going to be a lot more expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Any of the month-to-month short-term lease places are going to be much more expensive than getting a long-term contract.
And that's the same for like leasing the appliances too. In my case, it obviously the price changes depending on like, how new that appliance is or the model of it and stuff too. But for example, for me, when I was looking into it, there was a washing machine. Maybe you could like lease or rent it for like 2,000 yen a month or 1,000 yen a month. But if you do the math, like obviously just pick the one. Is it cheaper to buy the appliance and then sell it later? Or is it cheaper to just like rent it for a few months and then have it be taken away? So keep that in mind.
Yeah. Food for thought.
Okay. Speaking of money.
How much money do you need to move?
I mean, short answer, a lot. Like moving in Japan is so expensive. Like it's not fun at all.
But I also think, Well, I mean, okay, so the short answer is it depends on your lifestyle.
Yeah.
But something else important to keep in mind is that you get paid once a month here. So when you start your job, you're probably going to have to wait like 2 months, maybe 3.
Depending on your company.
Yeah, to get your first paycheck. So you probably want to bring enough living expenses for at least 3 months.
Yeah, that's very true. I think a lot of jobs that are very like foreigner specific that bring you from overseas, I think that's like in a lot of their orientation or like welcome packs. It's like, like have enough to sustain you for the first few months. And also depending on like your lifestyle in general, because that's such a good point. I forgot about that. But because you get paid once a month, the end of that month can really stretch.
Like eating cup noodles.
So
natto rice at the end of the month.
But yeah, just keep that in mind.
How much money did you save before moving here? If you don't mind sharing.
What do you mean? Save? What does that mean? Before moving to Japan?
Yeah.
I brought over, what should I bring? Like $3,000, maybe $3,000 to $5,000. But that was like, because I was very afraid of like what I was going to have to buy and stuff. But that, I think that in my situation, because I came on a program that like has my apartment ready for me, furnished and everything like that, I really didn't need that much money, to be honest. And I was living in the countryside, so my rent wasn't even that like expensive. Also, the program I was in, the Board of Education like subsidized half of that rent, and the other they like already took care of paying that rent through the paycheck from my school. So like I didn't really have to physically touch a lot of money. But I would say, I don't know. Would you say that's kind of like a decent amount? 3 to 5?
So I think I saved like 5 to 7. Maybe that's how much I brought over.
Yeah, but that was like you going to Tokyo straight away, right? This is me going to like the West Bumblebee, like middle of nowhere place.
And I didn't start working immediately.
Oh yeah, so we came on different things, but and that place, like my rent was, if you're gonna do it in like USD today, like $150. So like that's why I didn't bring. Cents. So that's why I didn't bring as much money as Frankie brought. But keep that in mind. Yeah.
Being in Tokyo is going to be more expensive. Obviously.
Just be prepared to like have a savings or bring over some money to sustain you. Yeah. And
then of course moving expenses, like when you first move into an apartment, it is pretty pricey.
It's not fun. Like, have you heard of key money?
Yeah, key money. Although most of the places I've lived in have not had key money.
What?
Because I think it's a waste of money.
Oh, it's such a waste of money. It's a security deposit you don't get back. Yeah.
I search for places that don't have the key money.
Yeah.
It's just a gift to the landlord.
Yep.
And then sometimes they ask for 1 to 3 months rent.
Yeah.
As a gift.
Yeah. And I've also like never really rented a place on my own in the States, but is it normal? Like if you renew your lease, do you have to pay like an extra month's rent or something? Because that was something I also had to do too. Or maybe it was to cancel my lease. I don't know. There was something with like, I think it was probably just cancel it or something. But I also had to like pay a month's rent in order to do that. And the key money was like a month's rent. And it's called shikiken. So is that the security deposit?
That's the security deposit.
Yeah. So that's like Frankie said, like 2 to 3 months rent usually.
Yeah.
It's so expensive.
In the States, I guess maybe the key money could be like a broker's fee. Although sometimes in Japan, you have to pay key money to the landlord, but then the real estate company also asks for like a month's rent as a cut too.
Yeah.
So like, let's say you move into a place that has like, okay, let's say the rent is like 8,000 yen, like 80,000 yen a month. And then you need 1 month's rent for the key money, 1 month's rent to give to the real estate company, 1 month's rent as a security deposit, and then 1 month's rent as the actual rent. So that's already like 240,000 yen.
Which is like...
Right? Did I do the math?
I don't know. I was like, pick number 3, my lord.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. And if it's, what did you say, 240,000 yen?
Yeah, but I still feel like that's even low for moving costs.
Yeah, that is on the lower end. That's probably like average to lower end. And then depending on your job. So let's say you are working at an eikaiwa or like you're working as an ALT somewhere. Usually the base pay is like 250,000 a month.
Yeah, I feel like for teaching, the average is kind of like
250. Some, depending on the hours and stuff, I've seen like 180 before, but that's like part-time level. So
no, that could be full-time. That's really low. You can't live on that these days. No.
So yeah, keep that in mind for sure. There was like one more thing I wanted to mention, and I totally. Depending on your own home country too, and like how moving works there. But let's say you're from a place where you have your own car usually. And if you were going to like move somewhere, you can either ask a friend with like a truck, or you move everything in your own car. So that like kind of cuts moving costs. Here in Japan, depending where you live, let's say you're moving to Tokyo or moving within Tokyo, and you don't have a car, you have to spend money on like a moving company, which like adds to moving costs. And for me, I wanted to move from the first time I moved was within the same prefecture, and I had a car at that time. So I did all that by myself. I went back and forth. Great. The second time I went from Chiba to Osaka. So there it's the east, like Kanto, to the west, Kansai, Japan. Obviously I can't do that by myself. I didn't have a car, and depending on like how much furniture you have and what day of the week you want to go out, it could have costed me like jumayan. So almost like $1,000 usually if we're gonna do the same conversion, but yeah, or at least like goman, like 500 USD. So keep that in mind. It's expensive to just move within or to a different prefecture too. It was not fun.
I feel like my previous calculation, like something must have been missing, because why was it only 240,000? Maybe you need a few months rent, like
I don't know.
Initially. I don't know, because when I moved into my previous apartment, the rent was like 73,000 a month, but my moving cost was like something around 300,000, and there was no key money.
Okay.
So I don't know what happened there. But then I also had to buy a fridge, a washing machine, and an aircon. So that's another like 150,000 Indian. So let's say my moving cost was like 450,000 ish. Yeah.
And that's just all spent in like one go. So it's a lot.
Yeah. For a place where the rent is not even like crazy expensive. So.
This is just like general advice about moving, especially if you're like moving, within Japan. If you can avoid it, avoid moving in the summer, just because it's hot.
Because of the heat?
Because of the heat, and just because it's hot. That's all I wanted to say.
Oh, and also, like, isn't February and March, like, aren't those the craziest times to apartment hunt?
Yeah.
Because the fiscal year restarts in April, so a lot of students and new workers, like a lot of people are moving at that time of year for the new start in April.
Yeah.
So if you can avoid that as well.
Yeah, because that is a very expensive time. Because what is that, like cost and demand or whatever it's called? Yeah.
Something like that.
Something like that. I don't know. But yeah. Yes. Okay. Anyway, it's expensive. Bring money. Okay.
And then some of the admin stuff that you're going to have to do when you move here. So things like setting up a phone plan, opening a bank account. You got to register your address at City Hall. You got to get health care at City Hall, or maybe your job will supply for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a national healthcare system which you can get from City Hall. Pension.
Yeah, it's a lot of paperwork. So, and you have to do that within your first 2 weeks of moving into Japan, or moving like anywhere in Japan, really.
Yeah, so expect a few hours for all of this.
Yeah, and I would say too, more just like work and moving advice. If you are moving to Japan and your job asks you, like if they give you the option, like when do you want to start? Try to give yourself as much time as possible. Like I know some people are like really excited and maybe you want to start working right away, but like please keep in mind you're going to have to use a lot of time for this admin stuff.
True.
And a lot of Japanese business hours are like only Monday through Friday, like what, 9 to 4 or 9 to 5 p.m. or something like that. It's very limited.
The bank is only until 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Monday to Friday until from 9 to 3.
So I would say if you can, like give yourself a couple of weeks before actually like starting work. Yeah. Because it takes a while. And it's like an all day thing too.
Yeah.
And you have to do that like moving within Japan as well. It's not like you did it once and you're good for the rest of your time. You have to like different cities as well, even if you're in the same prefecture.
Yeah, when you move to a new city or ward, you need to at the previous city hall or ward office, you need to like let them know that you're leaving, and
it's called a moving out notification. Yeah.
Yes, and then you're gonna have to like catch up on like any taxes or stuff that you would have owed to the previous place, and then they give you a form that says like, okay, you're allowed to move to a new city now. So then you bring it to the new city, you register your address.
Moving in notification. Yeah.
They'll set you up with the healthcare from their city, and pension will change as well. Yeah.
And again, this also depends on like what kind of company you work for. Some companies, they take care of like all of your taxes, like your city tax, your prefectural tax, all that stuff. Maybe they'll just take it out of your paycheck, or some you'll just have to pay on your own. And so please keep in mind that if you're moving either out of Japan or like to a different city or ward within Japan, keep some money on the side before your move to pay for those remaining taxes, because it really, really creeps up on you. To give a specific example, when I moved from Chiba to Osaka, I got a bill randomly, and it was like, okay, well, pay your remaining term of city or prefectural tax for Chiba, and it's like $800 that you just have to like pay at that time. So keep that in mind.
Lots of admin. Yeah, and also like Japan does have permanent residency, but it goes by a point system. So generally you would need to, if you would do it through work, you would need to be working here for 10 years and they check the last 5 years of your taxes. But there are also other ways to get permanent residency. Because it's a point system, it depends on your job. So if you're like a highly skilled professional, like that's a specific visa type. I'm not saying that like some people are highly are just, you know,
there's above I can't help it. I'm just like highly skilled.
Yeah, that's a specific like umbrella term for certain types of jobs. So like highly skilled professionals might be able to apply for permanent residency after like maybe a year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it does take a long, long time.
Yeah, or if you do it through marriage, like you need to be married for 3 years and then you can apply for permanent residency.
Okay, yeah, good to know.
Yeah, there are definitely people who do it in less than 10 years.
Oh, because they have like all the points?
Yeah. Oh. Like I know some people who have gotten it through work, but they only did like 7 years. It depends on your job.
Oh, okay. I see. Good to know. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so.
Yeah, one thing I heard that like really affects your points, like you said, they're gonna check if you like paid your taxes and stuff, but also pension. Pay your pension, because that's like what people get rejected for a lot.
Really?
So I hear, but I don't know. I think you are required, if you're like working and living in Japan, everyone is required to pay into the pension. But I feel like, because what is it? After how many years you like don't get it back, right? Like I know,
no idea.
For some companies, let's say you're like on a 2-year contract and you just have to pay into the pension because you're working in Japan. But if you return to your home country, you'll get all of that pension you paid it back because you went home.
All or most?
Most.
Like you can apply to get something back.
But I think it's like after 5 years, you just like don't get it back, I assume. Something like that. And I don't know if it's because people just want to like rebel and they're like, well, I'm not a Japanese citizen, so why would I pay into this pension? Or maybe they just like have no idea they're supposed to pay into the pension. Either way, that has like affected that.
That happened to me. Actually, like, so after a few years, because the companies that I was working for, like they didn't offer, like I was not a Cheyenne, like a technical full-time employee. I was like a contract worker. So I had national health insurance. So it wasn't the company insurance, because usually like if your company signs you up for that, like they will take the health insurance and the pension automatically out of your paycheck. But none of the companies that I worked for had ever signed me up for pension. So suddenly like I did work for a company that signed me up for pension, and then they were like, oh, you've been here for a few years, give us 300,000 yen now.
Oh god. Yeah, month by month it's not too bad, but it's, I think now 16,000 or something, like 160 or 16,000 yen. Yeah, something like that. So when you pay like month by month, as you should, it's just another expense you have to think about. But
I think it's like Yeah,
I mean, it's not cheap. Yeah.
Well, I just think it kind of sucks that the companies don't warn you that that could happen, because it's not like I was trying to avoid paying pension or that I didn't want to pay pension. I just didn't know how to sign up for it.
Yeah, that's very true.
Don't worry, I'm all paid up.
Yeah. Okay, good. I was going to ask, like, okay, have you been paying?
No, I took care of it. I asked them, like, I said, I want to pay this, but like, could you just split the bills up? And yeah, they did.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Okay, cool. Nice. Okay. Shall we get into the next point?
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe someday in the future you would want to apply for permanent residency, but there's also the option to change your citizenship if you want. I mean, I do have a friend who changed to be a Japanese citizen.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
I thought you like could not at all.
No, you can. So you need to be living here for 5 years.
Oh, what? That's like that's sooner than a permanent. I mean, it's citizenship.
Yeah.
So what?
But I'm sure the application process is a lot more grueling than applying for PR.
Interesting.
And also, Japan doesn't allow dual citizenship. So if you do want to be a Japanese citizen, you need to give up your native citizenship.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so you like really have to commit to the bid. Like you really have to commit to like revoking your previous nationality. I see. So what if, so everything goes well, you revoke your original citizenship, you become a Japanese citizen. Yeah. So you have the Japanese passport.
Yeah.
Then. And if you, even though you are a citizen, you're not born in Japan, but let's say you have a child in Japan, do they automatically get that Japanese citizenship too?
That's a good question. I would assume yes.
Because I mean, I assume yes, since you yourself have that citizenship. But like, you know, in the U.S. where even if you're not a U.S. citizen, if you're born there, you can just become a U.S. citizen. But that doesn't work for Japan. Yeah. So I wonder if you have that citizenship, it should apply, but I'm kind of curious. Maybe I'll look into that later.
Yeah, I would assume.
Yeah. Okay. The next point is making friends, both foreign and Japanese. So is the question how to make friends? Okay. Yeah. How do you make friends? What are those?
Well, let's see. Making friends with Japanese people, I have done it through language exchange.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nice. I've done it through like work. Like hanging out with the people that work in my company, or people that come as clients like through that company and things like that. Yeah. Or just it's a lot of like my close Japanese friends is usually introduced to me
through other friends.
Yeah. Who are like foreign or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think it's valuable to have both foreign and Japanese friends. Like, I know you might want to immerse yourself in the culture, but like, it's good to have some, people who can relate on a level that only someone from home could understand.
Sure. I think, that's very important for sure.
Yeah.
So in terms of how to make friends, two other options is just especially if you live in the countryside, like not
what if
Tokyo
you're in a really rural area? How are you going to make friends?
This is where I think it can be challenging if you're like an introvert or if you personally just don't like going out. If you really want to make friends with people in rural areas, you have to become like a yes man almost. Yeah. And like sometimes it's really tiring, but I would just say yes as much as like your mind and body allows to any invitation that comes your way. Yeah. And if you're comfortable, like also inviting the people around you as well. I think that's like the only thing that allowed me to build a community when I was living in a rural area was like, I joined like the PTA volleyball team, and it was mostly because they were like, hey, you played volleyball. Do you want to do this? And I couldn't say no because I just like also can't like, say no. And so I was like, yeah, sure. And then through that, like, that's how you meet people and like get to know people. And through that, you make connections. And so it's really like, it can be really exhausting if you're originally not someone who's like outward like that.
I'm very, very introverted. So but I've only lived in like big cities.
Yeah, where there's like people all around you anyway. Yeah. But if you are introverted or you're more of a homebody, it can still feel very lonely if you live in a rural area with like no one else around you, like that is either from your home country or like physically like not so many people around you. So no matter if you're like an introvert or an extrovert, I think it's important to not say yes, but like, you know, go out as much as you can if you want to. Okay.
Scroll a little bit.
Shall I scroll? Oops.
Okay. So something I get asked about a lot, and I'm not really sure why, is about moving to Japan with kids or with your family. So I don't have kids yet, so I don't really know.
Yeah, and I don't have my family here either or kids, so
so I would say some Instagram accounts to check out. So there's one called hangrybynature. So they are a couple that has 3 kids, and they're in the process of like, they just moved here more permanently, so they're setting up all that stuff, so they might have more insight about that. But they also like document a lot of the process, so yeah, definitely check out their account if you're curious about that. And then just like moving with kids and traveling with kids in general, the Tokyo chapter is a really good account. And yeah, she really loves when people ask her questions. Her name is Jo. She's an Australian gal.
Nice.
She's very nice.
Yeah. Ask Jill.
Ask Jo.
Okay. Nice. Okay. Ooh, this next point.
Yeah, little spicy question.
Yeah.
Do you think there are any reasons that people should not move here?
I think you shouldn't move here if you don't have the right intentions, I guess. And what that means is, I watch anime, so I could live in Japan. Like, maybe don't move here because of that reason. Like, that was very like vague, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. If you don't have a specific goal, I guess, to move here, then it's going to be hard, I would say, to adjust. Yeah.
I think you should just be aware of the more like not so positive aspects of living here, because you might come here and be disappointed once you're actually here, because it's very, very different to be a tourist in Japan. Like, being a tourist here is absolutely amazing. Not to say that living here is not amazing too. Like, I really love it. I want to stay here. But it is definitely different. Yeah.
That's like anywhere you travel, you know? Yeah. So, especially if you're coming, you know, you want to try living in Japan and you want to try working here. Great. But like we talked about it just a little bit ago, but keep in mind, is the job you're applying for, do they allow you to choose where you're going to live? Or are they just going to shoot you off into like a rural area? Do you like nature? Do you like rural areas? Are you going to be okay with like loneliness and kind of being on your own for a little bit? If you say yes to all those questions, then like, that's totally fine. But if you realize, you know, you kind of just you visited here once or, you know, a few times, and then you saw all of like the great things on social media, and then that's the only reason why you came here, it might be a little hard. You might get a reality check.
Yeah, I also think because when people share like apartment tours or they talk about the rent prices, like I think it is pretty affordable to live here. Like, because I was coming from New York City before, where like it's so expensive and it's like impossible to live alone. Yeah. So it was much cheaper here. But these days, like if you see like, oh, this apartment is like 100,000 yen, it's like X amount of dollars, and then people are like, "Wow, Japan is so cheap. I'm moving." But you have to think about, if you're living and working here, you're making a Japanese salary. Yeah,
depending on your job, but you're probably going to get paid in yen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be that much. Like,
it's going to balance
maybe around 250,000 yen a month, which is
starting probably, depending.
One second, let me convert it.
Oh, okay. We don't want to give you any wrong information. I do this every day. I'm like, yen to USD. Oh,
okay. That is like $1,600 a month. So if you're only making $1,600 a month, like,
yeah, it's not a lot, considering like other factors, such as, let's say that is your base pay. That's what you got, you know, paid, and then you have to pay for things like your rent, transportation, food, pension, your health insurance if you're on like national health insurance, and a lot of other things. And then if you like to go out and do other things that cost money, then there's not a lot of room for saving, is like what I've personally experienced. Like I don't have a big savings, and that's not because I'm out spending all of my money at once all the time, but it's just because of like my cost of living with my current salary doesn't allow me to have like a big savings like that. So keep that in mind.
Another thing to keep in mind.
Yeah. So on that note, someone said, any money saving tips? Don't ask me.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I'm the best person to ask about this either. Like, I save my 500 yen coins in a jar.
Yeah, I like to do that too. The 500 yens and the 1 yens, the each yens.
The 1 yen.
They're like,
you won't get much for those.
Nothing, but I like to put them somewhere besides like have them take space in my wallet.
Yeah. But there's also like a lot of the apps that you use for electronic payment, like PayPay, for example, like there are points on PayPay. So if you use those, like you could get points back and you can spend them.
Yeah, that's true.
Places.
Japan loves their point cards.
Like credit cards as well. Like, I think the Rakuten credit card is a pretty good one. The point system is good, but like if you have like a high yield savings account or something, like in the US, like you would make more. Like the interest rate is higher for that, so like you could make more money on the savings account and like investing and stuff in the US, like compared to Japan where that's pretty low.
I see.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about that, but yeah,
I'm not an expert on it, but like I'm getting into this stuff now.
Yeah, I see. Oh, yeah, you have an eyelash. Oh, it went away. Okay, I think it just fell down as soon as you blinked.
Where's my eyelash?
I don't know. Make a wish. But going back to, I don't know if this is like a money saving tip or a caution about money spending, but also like Japanese credit cards, usually, unless you like set it otherwise, it's going to be paid in full.
Balance,
It gets paid in full every month. So just be wary of that. If you're a big credit card spender.
But that's how it should
be. That's literally how it should be, but also
be.
Just like keep that in mind. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But if there comes a month when you can't pay the full balance on it, usually like on the app, you can select something for like a revolving payment, ribo barai.
Yeah.
Or you can call the credit card company. But they do charge an interest rate in that case, of course.
One thing now that we're on this topic that like kind of surprised me when I first came here for credit card payments is they allow you, so there's also on top of revolving payment, there's also something called a is it bumbetsu or like wake? Something like bumbetsu barai. Yeah. So you can choose how many times you want to split that payment. And you can choose that like when you're paying your credit card bill or like at the store. So at the store, usually the worker will ask you like ikai, or like, what is it? Ikatsu barai. Yeah. So that means like, do you want to pay like everything in full now? Or you can tell them like sankai or sankatsu or whatever. And like, they'll just like pay a third. Like just a third of that will get charged, right? So
I never tried it. I wonder what would happen if you're like, how about 20 times?
Yeah, I had a friend. I don't know if he was like trolling me or if this is like a true story, but he was like, I got really tired of them asking me that because I just went to like Daiso and I got like, like a pack of gum. Yeah, like it was something like 100 yen. And he was like, split it 10 times. And they just had to.
Oh my gosh.
But is that a true story? I don't know, but it was really funny. So I'm not saying like troll people and do that, but you can kind of also do that, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I never really thought about it.
Yeah.
Also for saving money, if you go to the supermarket towards the end of the night, some things will be discounted.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could get stuff and like discounted, or you could freeze things, like buy the discounted stuff and freeze it. Those kind of things. But I mean, when I was living in Tokyo, I really didn't save that much money. It was like paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. Also, like I don't know if it's like a misconception, but like, yes, the konbini is like, the convenience store is very cheap and very convenient, but it's not cheaper than the supermarket in a lot of like ways. So if you're thinking like, just like run by the konbini on the way home, it might be cheaper to just like go buy that same thing at a supermarket. Yeah. I mean, it's always by like a few yen or something, but if you really want to like kind of add those coins up, maybe just shop at a grocery store more than the convenience store.
Yeah. So, I mean, it depends on your lifestyle, but like, yeah, it could be hard to save money depending on like the kind of activities you do, the place that you live, or maybe it might be easier for you to save. It all just depends on the person.
Yep. Yeah, but don't ask me. Just don't ask me. All right.
Okay.
Last one.
Yeah. Sometimes people also ask about like, how are you treated as a foreigner here? Like, is there racism? Like, is there xenophobia? What do you think?
I've never personally experienced like outward racism before. Like, F you, go home, you foreigner. But I've also experienced a lot of like, I guess, passive aggression.
Yeah.
Like, usually it comes with, so obviously Frankie and I, you know, we're both from the US, but if you look closely, we're not the same race.
Yeah.
So as an Asian American, or like really, you know, depending how tan I am too, and like my fashion at the time, I can be kind of more Japanese. I'm putting air quotes, like Japanese passing, or just other kind of Asian passing too. It depends. And in my experience, a lot of like, if I start speaking Japanese to Japanese people and it's not perfect, if it's a little broken, they kind of give me this look of like, where are you from? You know, or sometimes they just ask me like if I'm half Japanese. And then once I say I'm like from Hawaii or I'm from the US, their like demeanor immediately changes, and they get really like, oh, really? Like, wow, I love that for you. I love Hawaii. Like, so I get a very, I don't like, because if you were to look at me right away, a lot of people might not assume I'm, you know, foreign or whatever. Again, I said depending on the time of the year. But yeah, so I get a very like I get a lot of like hesitance from people. They're very like, what are you? Like, why don't you're Asian, but like, why don't you speak Japanese well? Or they're like, what do you mean you're from the US, but you're Asian? Why are you speaking English so well? I never get like the average foreign treatment, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
For me personally, like, yeah, maybe just some like xenophobic like comments or interactions every now and then, but it's never like to the point where I felt unsafe. But I don't deny that there is racism and xenophobia here. There absolutely is. Yeah, but I mean, like,
yeah, I mean, and this is us coming as like Americans too, right? Because I know the treatment of like Southeast Asian foreigners is a lot different than like European or like Western foreigners. I highly acknowledge that, you know.
Yeah,
so
I have noticed that at
it's
work
really
as well.
Messed up,
like, yeah, the Southeast Asian coworkers don't get treated as well as the native English speakers, and like, why?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like discourse and like what it means to be a foreigner, and like if you're like the cool foreigner, quote, again, air quotes, like what people perceive as like being the cool foreigner versus like, you know, the other. So yeah, we can talk about that next time if it ever comes up. But yeah.
I mean, if you search on YouTube, TikTok, like you can find a lot of accounts of people like sharing their experiences with xenophobia and racism here. So yeah, I think it is definitely worthwhile to hear about different people's experiences and perspectives on this topic.
Yeah, and I think it's important to factor in, like, let's say if you're watching on social media or whatever, if there's someone like a foreign person living in Japan, they're like, I've never experienced racism, or like I always have a positive experience, like please just take that very lightly, because that doesn't apply to a lot of people.
That's great for them.
Yeah, great for them.
That's not everybody.
Yeah, so keep that in mind. All right.
Yeah, all right. That's pretty much all we got. For the next couple episodes, I really want to go more in depth about teaching here, so we can like, share some teaching stories from our own experience and from other people's experiences if they want to share it with us before we record it, and then another episode in depth about learning Japanese and like the best ways to learn Japanese. Because I mean, what works for me might not work for you. So we want to get more perspectives.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Sounds good.
Yes. Okay.
Did you want to share that last figure at the bottom? Or
yeah, I just found some statistics about like what the average salaries are in each major city in Japan.
Frankie's giving air quotes.
Could you scroll?
Oh yes, I'll scroll last.
So I don't squeak. Okay, so this is including like just everybody who lives there, like Japanese people, foreign people, everyone. So it seems, apparently, the average salary for Tokyo is 574,000 yen a month.
Do you want to say the USD? Shall we? Or
$4,229. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know any foreigners making that much money, but it depends.
I'm not in that bracket.
Definitely
I mean, I know
teachers.
it's average, but teachers are not making that salary. But interesting.
Maybe some like engineers or something make that. I don't know. But this is the average.
I know this.
People.
Yeah, I know this like factors in Japanese people, and like they're probably making bonuses and a higher salary overall. But like it's way more than I thought. So but I was thinking like if you're somebody who wants to move to Japan and you're going to be teaching English to start, like, and you see like, oh, the average salary in Tokyo is 574,000 yen a month. No,
probably not for you.
No, it's different.
Not for teachers.
Okay, all right. The second one, Yokohama, the average salary per month is 564,000 Japanese yen.
Yeah,
or 4,100 USD.
Yeah, and then there's Osaka and Nagoya. So Tokyo is the highest, of course, but the other major cities are like not too far off.
Yeah.
Pretty similar.
Yeah, they're all in that 500,000 range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't expect to make that much, at least not to start.
Yeah. Some people, work for like, what is it called? Like gaishike, like foreign firms and stuff.
True.
And like, you're going to make more money like that.
Some people do.
Yeah. But
don't like put all your eggs in one basket and think you will make this to start.
I also heard too, like a lot of IT jobs are opening up in Japan, but like the IT salary is so much lower in Japan compared to like the average IT salary in the US.
That's
so
true.
like, again, keep that in mind. Even though it's the same field,
Yeah.
you're probably going to get a big pay cut.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I just thought this was interesting, so I wanted to share it.
So I was like, couldn't be me.
Anywho,
that's it.
Thank you for listening.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Okay. My butt is numb. My neck hurts. My butt hurts.
Hello?
Selena? Was the mic off? Was your mic off?